The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, I'm Leah Warren, and this is your news at 2:30. For the first time since winning last week's federal election, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with U.S. President Donald Trump. First discussions wrapped up as the two leaders shared a working lunch at the White House. The meeting happened as Trump had repeatedly said he thinks Canada should become the 51st state. Carney was asked what was going through his mind when Trump talked about erasing the border between Canada and the U.S.
I've been careful always to distinguish between wish and reality. I was clear there in the Oval Office, as I've been clear throughout on behalf of Canadians, that this is never going to happen. Canada is not for sale. It never will be for sale. Some things, as I said in the room, some things are never for sale. And he agreed with that.
Carney says today marked, quote, the end of the beginning of a new stage in the Canada-U.S. relationship, and the two sides have committed to meeting again in the future. Police in Vancouver are investigating the stabbing death of a 48-year-old man last night in the downtown East Side. They say officers were flagged down around 8:45 p.m. by a witness near Corral and East Hastings Streets, and the injured man was found on the sidewalk near the entrance of the West Hotel. Police say first responders administered first aid before the man was taken to hospital, where he died. They say a suspect has not been found, and investigators believe the incident was random, but are encouraging anyone with information to contact the police. The RCMP say a 16-year-old hiker is dead after falling down a gully near Lions Bay. Mounties in Squamish say police and local search and rescue groups responded to a report of two lost hikers on Sunday afternoon. Police say the hiking friends were separated when the teen fell down a gully and the second person left the trail to try and find their friend. North Shore Search and Rescue members found one of the hikers, while the 16-year-old who fell was found unresponsive and taken to the hospital. They say life-saving efforts were administered, but the teenager did not survive. Sergeant Dallas Langley of the Sea to Sky Detachment says they're working with the coroner's office on the investigation, and their condolences go out to the family and friends of the person who died. In more positive local news, an all-Canadian cast is putting on West Side Story at the Granville Island stage starting on May 8th. Since 1957, the modern take on Romeo and Juliet has been revised and brought to life on stage and on screen. Reporter Emma Bolsner spoke with a lead cast member about bringing one of the biggest musicals of all time to Vancouver.
Cassandra Consiglio plays the character of Maria in Vancouver's upcoming theatre production of West Side Story. In one of her first leading roles, being part of this means a lot to Consiglio, who performed in the production 9 years ago as an understudy back in Winnipeg.
West Side is one of those iconic stories that we all gravitate to, and it's a big one in the community. The performance of Natalie Wood as Maria is so iconic and engraved in all of our brains, and I think it's something that I obviously gravitated and loved as a kid.
West Side Story will be on until May 26th. Emma Bolsner, BCIT News.
I have Emma on the phone with me now. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Leah.
When was West Side Story last performed in Vancouver?
Actually, in 2016, it was performed at Theatre Under the Stars in Stanley Park.
Wow. And what does Cassandra enjoy most about playing Maria?
Well, she said it was quite intimidating being in such a well-known big musical like West Side Story, but she's grateful playing Maria now in her life because her experiences as a person have helped her relate and understand the character better than she could have imagined or ever done so before.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Staying with the arts, the Banksy exhibit in Vancouver is a collector's pieces showcase. However, Banksy himself has nothing to do with the show. The production company affiliated with Banksy supervises the authenticity of every artwork, and Bahar Garian has more on Banksy's stance with the galleries.
The Banksy exhibit, called Without Limits in Vancouver, was introduced as the largest Banksy exhibit to happen yet. Banksy has many famous pieces such as Girl with Balloon and Portrait of an Artist, and tends to act tenacious when it comes to displaying his artwork in galleries. Most of the pieces at this exhibit are from buyers across the world, curated into one show, and as one worker says, the show is technically unauthorized.
To some capacity, he's aware of it, but he just doesn't do anything about it. He also doesn't earn money from all of these exhibits, whether that be the company that's hosting the one that I work at or any other Banksy exhibit out there.
Essentially, the artist doesn't want affiliation with any exhibits of his work. However, the collectors have free will to do with the pieces what they like. His work will continue to be displayed in various cities as well. Bahar Garian, BCIT News.
Bahar is in the studio with me. Hi, Bahar.
Hi there.
Why do you think Banksy wants to keep his identity hidden despite all of his success?
Well, I think Banksy wants to keep his anonymity because he's trying to spread a message through his artwork, and, the press can bring along a lot of baggage and things and he just wants to protect the people that he's trying to rescue and use his position as a successful artist to actually give back to communities that need it and not have it be so much about the artist, but about the work.
Wow, that's super cool. Why do the collectors want to use their personal artwork that they've purchased from Banksy in a public gallery?
Well, I think the whole idea of that is people love Banksy who purchases work, and he's got a lot of spark behind all of his artwork, and with that comes a lot of support, and people are just trying to get his name out there and to get other people to follow him and basically keep him relevant.
Awesome. Thank you, Bahar.
You're welcome.
In national news, a grass fire in West Edmonton has shut down sections of a major city roadway. A spokesperson from Edmonton Fire Rescue Services says crews received reports shortly after noon Tuesday of a bush or grass fire. They say firefighters remain at work to bring the fire under control. A social media post from 511 Alberta, the province's traveler information service, says the west leg of Anthony Henday Drive is closed due to smoke in the area. Drivers are being asked to proceed with caution or consider alternative routes. Edmonton police say several businesses have been evacuated, and more information will be provided as it becomes available. For the second time in less than 6 months, Canada Post workers could walk off the job. Existing deals between the Crown Corporation and the union expire on May 22nd, with several issues still outstanding, including wages. Canadian Press business reporter Chris Reynolds says Canada Post delivers over 1 million parcels a day.
So while those parcels only make up, between a quarter and 30% of the parcel shipping market in Canada, it's still a huge gap for the private sector to plug. And if an extended strike were to occur again, it would be yet another big disruption in the world of shipping and trade.
Expert notes that Canada Post's dire financial situation means it may struggle to meet workers halfway on their contract demands. Moving across the border, the Supreme Court is allowing President Donald Trump's administration to enforce a ban on transgender people in the military, while legal challenges proceed. The High Court acted Tuesday in the dispute over a policy that presumptively disqualifies transgender people from military service. Just after beginning his second term in January, Trump moved aggressively to roll back the rights of transgender people. Among the Republican president's actions was an executive order that claims the sexual identity of transgender service members, quote, conflicts with the soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life, and is harmful to military readiness. Jury selection continues in the trial against Sean Diddy Combs today. Combs is charged with 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. ABC's Aaron Katursky has more.
The jury questionnaire warning potential jurors there may be evidence of sexually explicit videos, photographs, and language. Many prospective jurors said they had heard of the case and potentially damning evidence. Video first obtained by CNN showing Combs knocking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to the floor of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 and kicking and dragging her.
Without identifying them publicly, prosecutors have said 4 of Coombs' accusers will testify at the trial.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon. I'm Hayden Stewart, and this is your 245 Sports Update. On the ice tonight, 2 more second-round series begin as the Carolina Hurricanes take on the Washington Capitals in D.C. at 4 p.m. Both teams dominated in the first round, both winning their series in 5 games. Later on this evening, the Edmonton Oilers are in Vegas to take on the Golden Knights to start their second-round matchup. These teams met in the playoffs back in 2023. Vegas won the series in 6 games. Game time tonight is 6:30. The Maple Leafs haven't ruled out goaltender Anthony Stolarz for tomorrow's Game 2 of Toronto's second-round playoff series with Florida. The netminder took an elbow to the head from Panthers center Sam Bennett before eventually departing. The Leafs would still win the game 5-4 with help of 2 goals from star forward William Nylander. Bennett, who would win the Stanley Cup with Stolarz in Florida last June, says he wasn't looking to injure a former teammate.
I heard that he went to the hospital last night, and Stolarz is a good friend of mine. I reached out to him. He responded, and obviously never want to see an injury like that.
Stolarz was evaluated in hospital last night, but was at Toronto's practice facility today. The next game of this series is Wednesday at 4 p.m. Canada won their second tune-up game 6-0 against Hungary before the World Championships. NHL Rookie of the Year finalist Macklin Celebrini shined as he had a goal and 3 assists. In the team's first warm-up game, they won 5-1 against Austria. The tournament starts Friday in Herning, Denmark, and Stockholm, Sweden. Canada's first game of the tournament is Saturday against Slovenia in Stockholm. On the hardwood tonight, there is NBA playoff action as the Indiana Pacers look to extend their lead in the series against the Cleveland Cavaliers after their wild upset a couple nights ago. Indiana currently leads the series 1-0. Tip-off is at 4 p.m. in Cleveland. Also, a series is starting tonight as the Golden State Warriors take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Warriors will look to tighten up their play as they almost blew a 3-1 series lead against the Houston Rockets in the first round. Also, this series is the first in over 10 years where the Warriors are the underdogs to advance. The NBA's all-time coaching wins leader, who recently stepped down, made his first media appearance in roughly half a year. Correspondent Gethin Kuhlbau reports.
Greg Popovich spoke publicly Monday for the first time since suffering a stroke 6 months ago.
I can never express the gratitude that I have for so many people.
The 76-year-old expressed at the news conference where the Spurs formally introduced Mitch Johnson as his replacement that the time was right to make that move.
Things are getting better by the day, but it's not good enough for what we plan ahead.
Flanked by Spurs greats Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili, Popovich spoke far more softly than he has in the past. The 38-year-old Johnson served as interim in Popovich's absence for much of this past season.
I am honored by this opportunity.
I'm Gethin Kuhlbau.
Now to the Diamond. The Toronto Blue Jays are in California tonight for a 3-game series against the Angels. Newly signed pitcher Jose Urena is expected to start this game. In his one appearance with the New York Mets this year, Urena pitched 3 innings and gave up 5 runs. Both teams are looking to get hot as they have struggled to start the season. The Blue Jays are 16-18 while the Angels are 13-20. Los Angeles is without star player Mike Trout as he is on the injury list with knee issues. First pitch is 6:38 tonight. In soccer, the second game of the Champions League semifinal matchup between Barcelona and Inter Milan was everything a soccer fan could have asked for. Milan started the scoring in the 21st minute with captain Lautaro Martinez slotting one into the back of the net. Milan would double their lead in added time at the end of the first half. But it wouldn't take long before Barcelona would strike back. In the 54th minute, they would cut the lead in half. And just 6 minutes after that, the game was tied. Barcelona would persevere and take the lead in the 87th minute. But that was not the end of the scoring. 4 minutes into added time with only 1 minute left, Inter Milan would somehow find the netting and send the game to extra time. And in added time, it would be Inter Milan scoring and winning this match. They will play either Paris Saint-Germain or Arsenal in the Champions League final. Their game is tomorrow at 12 p.m. That will conclude your 245 Sports Update. I'm Hayden Stewart, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane.